Hello and welcome back. This is Module 4, the growth of reality TV. Let's get started. So starting off, the growth of reality TV, it really has moved from the fringes of television to its core as network adopt reality formats to recapture the audience, while cable channels develop shows to find a niche audience to gain viewers, but not since the era of the 1950s quiz shows did reality TV dominate the primetime schedule. However, the success of the CBS Survivor and ABC's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, they're really credited with the network as realizing that there was an audience that wanted the unscripted television, and that genre could be highly profitable. So prior to Survivor and Millionaire, reality TV was seen as kind of cheap and easy to produce, but network did not believe that it could achieve such high ratings. For example, in the very first season, the finale episode, there was 51 million people that actually watched it. That's pretty huge. I mean, not record-breaking, or that probably would go back to Super Bowl 46 with Giants and Patriots as having 111.3 million. But still, 51 million is a lot. So the success of Survivor told the network and the audience, obviously, that there are people that wants to watch people with familiar conflict, and people wanted to see individuals on TV just like them. So in response, 1980s reality TV grew out of the response to the economic, political, labor, and technological factors. We saw growth in numbers of channels available because the deregulation increased cable and the satellite network, as well as the new Fox network. There was a growth in technology. People could record their shows with a VCR, and they could skip commercials, which made them less valuable, as stations were no longer could charge as much, right? So the decrease in revenue, stations had to cut their program, production costs to make up for less money coming in. The network then developed high debts. As a result, the big three were sold in the 1980s, and the new parent companies sought to help maximize profits. The labor strikes forced the network to find programming that used less unionized labor, but there are also only so many good writers and actors as well. So the network had to, for years, given up on summer programming, while regular season is only between 20 to 26 episodes. But traditionally, in the summertime, American network television was an afterthought, more like the reruns, old movies, pilots, made-for-TV movies. But as the summer season got longer, ratings continued to decrease. The network was beginning to look for some various programming, new programming. So in the summer of 2000, they called it the Summer of Reality. That was when Survivor and Big Brother had tremendous success. Survivor during summer with huge ratings that really led CBS, which was low in the rating, to schedule the show opposite of Friends on Thursdays at 8 in the fall of 2000. By the end of 2001 season, CBS had doubled their Thursday night audience and the rivaling NBC, but for a fraction of the cost. So in 2001, an episode of Friends cost $5.5 million, and an episode of ER cost $13 million. In the 1980s, networks and Hollywood fought over smaller markets and less revenue, while also having to pay more to produce programming. The prices were continue to rise, with talents, directors, script writers, music composition, computer animation, and location costs. Basically all forms of production budgets. Reality TV was just simply a cheaper than traditional programming. Not as much equipment was needed, smaller filming and editing crew, fewer paid performers, and fewer sets. Networks then can actually make money on reality TV based on just ad revenue when compared to the cost of producing comedies and or dramas. The technology in the 80s and 90s, that really played a role in the growth of reality TV. Late 1980s, early 1990s, they can be explained by the growth and development of the technology. You have the portable video cameras, the amateur videographers using the personal video cameras. They made show possible that rely on either the audience creating the footage scene or for shows to follow real life individuals in a natural setting, such as Cops in 1989, Unsolved Mysteries in 1987, America's Funniest Home Videos, 1990. These were possible because of the portable video camera. Microphones also became smaller and more affordable, so crews no longer had to use boom mics to record. So it was possible to mic individuals and follow them around. However, in the 1980s and 1990s, there were many groups involved in the television program went on a strike, demanding higher salaries and more money on the back end from residuals. The National Association of Broadcast Employees and Technicians, Directors Guilds, American Federation of Musicians, Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Radio and Television Artists, Screen Actors Guild, struck twice, and Writers Guild. These was going around as some strikes during this era as well. 1988, there was a writer's strike. It lasted 22 weeks and delayed the opening of the fall TV. Existing reality shows were ineffective because they used few writers. The delay of the season kind of helped develop shows that did not depend on writers. So that's where the reality TV kind of comes in, shows where the network's only options. One show that took advantage of the network demands was Cops, which debuted in 1989, as well as America's Funniest Home Videos. Reality TV became like the scabs picking up the pieces. Premiere of both, as we shared, Survivor, excuse me, 2000 and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, 1999. They both occurred while the network were preparing for more possible strikes. Few reality TV storytellers are unionized or members of the writers guilds. Some of the few include Bravo's Intervention and ABC's Dancing with the Stars. When writing staff of America's Next Top Model all tried to strike for the WGA contract, they were all fired. Popular shows then created more ad revenue. Renewals of these shows cost more money, but are considered worthwhile based on the idea that because the shows do well, less popular or newer shows can then be promoted when the popular shows air. But when the show renews, after paying the producers, talent, crews, etc., they often cost more than the ad revenue generated. So to pay for more expensive shows, the network economized the rest of their lineup with the reality TV. While stations, they can try to use repeats or generate revenue for shows, they have already spent that money on so reality shows are cheaper and usually can generate higher ratings than a repeat. Reality shows can cost less than $500,000 an hour. By comparison, because when Friends went off the air in 2002 season, the 6 cast members were making $1 million per episode, and each episode cost $7.5 million to make. Prior to the growth of reality TV on the network, ABC, CBS, and NBC, they relied on the dramas and the sitcom to attract an audience. So the theme of must-see TV as an advertising slogan, it was used to help brand its primetime block of sitcom during the 1990s with their Thursday night lineup, The Cosby Show, Family Ties, Cheers, Night Court, Seinfeld, Wings, Frasier's, Friends, and Will and Grace. It also includes well-known shows like Hill Street Blues, LA Law, and ER. So that must-see TV allowed NBC to dominate the primetime ratings on Thursday nights during that time period. Thursday nights were coveted by advertisers because of the large proportion of young, affluent viewers who tune in. Also because movie advertisers promote their titles to this target demographic on Thursday night in hopes of getting them to go see maybe new movies on Friday night. That slogan made its first appearance in August of 1993 and included the day of the week, must-see TV Thursday. The idea was just a classic network television. It helps to capture and hold audience over the course of an evening with a mix of comedies and drama. By 2006, NBC was at the bottom in ratings among the big network, and it was bleeding money. So in response, the NBC Universal CEO Jeff Zucker began cutting costs and really reduced the network's commitment to scripted programming. And ABC had its own must-see TV on Friday. So the TGIF was the name of a family-friendly primetime television program block and came from the initials of the popular phrase, "Thank God it's Friday." That stars of lineup tooted the acronym as meaning, "Thank goodness it's funny." So before ABC switched to TGIF, its Friday night schedule consisted of Webster, Benson, and for its final season, Different Strokes. That block of family-friendly comedies was inaugurated in 1988 to 1989 season with Perfect Strangers, Full House, Mr. Belvedere, and Just the 10 of Us. In between the 1988 and 2000 shows such as Perfect Strangers, Full House, Mr. Belvedere, Just the 10 of Us, Family Matters, Step by Step, Hanging with Mr. Cooper, Boy Meets World, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and the Hooglies. Now, Friday nights on ABC are primarily used to air reality TV program. The remnant of that TGIF occupied pretty much the daytime and afternoon lineup on ABC Family. And in 2003, TGIF made a brief return. The Fox network, relative upstart compared to the big three, and didn't launch until 1986. It was one of the first to experiment with primetime reality TV in the 1990s. Viewers were treated to shows such as When Good Pets Go Bad, World's Scariest Police Chases, and Alien Autopsy. Critics referred to such programming as a gross out shockumentaries and socially unredeeming freak shows. Fox then allowed its viewer to delight in the outrageous, the lowbrow of the sensational. HBO, so home box office was one of the cable network that also began to compete with the big three. Their first premiere was in 1972 in Manhattan, New York, and went national on satellite in 1975. HBO is a premium channel that people have to pay to subscribe to rather than being on the public airwaves. It allows the network to escape much of the criticism and calls for censorship that plague broadcast and basic cable station. That's why the slogan is, "It's not TV, it's HBO." Its long-standing taboo and censorship of the network and basic cable channel against bad language, nudity, violence, and bodily functions were dismissed in pursuit of a younger and more affluent audience. HBO then marketed itself as the quality network for paying customers with such shows as The Sopranos and The Sex and the City, which dismissed or ignored such of the taboos. But a station with no commercials and 24 hours to fill needs a lot of programming for years, HBO returned to reality TV to fill the void. They had America's Undercover blurs the line between reality and documentaries, and it covers topics like labor struggles, abortion, racial profiling, terrorism, and the death penalty. Within that series are several sub-series, such as Autopsy and Taxicab Confessions. America Undercover began in 1983 and was broadcast weekly for a time in 2001, but it's not only once per month. In 2006, episodes were edited to meet basic cable standards and began being rebroadcast on A&E. Nickelodeon, as surprising as that sound, it also had a part in the growth of reality TV. The trademark of the show, You Can't Do That on Television, was to slime contestants on the show in the green goo drop from the above. That humiliation of being gooed is a reminiscent of some of the physical challenges now seen on shows like Fear Factor. And not surprisingly, the viewers of You Can't Do That on TV from the mid-1970s to the mid-1980s are today's target reality TV audience. Transitioning over, European, during the 1980s and 90s, American producers and networks were attracted to the idea of selling their cheap reality programming to Europe as a way to kind of generate some greater profits. Primetime reality TV, they earned back that production cost with the first US network showing. So syndication in Europe is pure profit. 1991, Rescue 911 could be seen in Germany, Denmark, and Sweden. Unsolved Mystery was available in Canada, Spain, France, and Japan. Swedish even developed a local version of Cops. So this is important since reality TV is not successful in reruns because the show's timelines make them less attractive the second time around. But in 1980s, though, the political movement in Europe, such as Margaret Thatcher's rise to Prime Minister of the UK, in between from 1979 to 1990, it led to the deregulated state monopolies, including public television, which led to the growth of commercial broadcasting in Europe. The late 80s and early 90s, the number of cable and satellite TV stations, they rapidly increased in many parts of the Europe. And in 1989, Western Europe aired 40 total TV channels, but then by 2002, they offered over 1,500. That deregulations and the expansion of non-publicly owned channels led to the more channels and the need for more TV. With the increased pressure on Europe's publicly owned station to compete with the commercial channels that aired popular and often American-produced program, that US TV comprised of about 70 to 90% of the imported TV fiction to Europe in 2002. Basically, a larger national market and public station had to find popular programming to compete, and the economic reality of the situation then led these channels to look for additional local and cheap programming. So as the reality TV began to take hold in US, but then it also saw a growth in Europe. European station faced deregulation, and then therefore it increased the competitions for more channels, but in a different way. Whereas in US, most stations are not owned by the government, but that's not true in Europe. Instead, many of the popular stations are owned and operated by the government. While America may have originally been the exporters of reality TV to Europe, now they have become importer, as many American reality shows have roots in European reality programs such as Big Brother and X Factor. And that wraps up our Module 4 on the growth of reality TV. This week, your assignment will be a discussion about the growth of reality TV, and the other one is creating a reality TV show. Your assigned reality TV show stakeholder. It'll be either in some form of a Prezi or a PowerPoint. More information is on Canvas. So thank you again. I hope you are enjoying the course and that you're enjoying the materials that you've gained from reality TV. Thanks and have a great week.